Well, everybody's here, so I guess we can start. We're one person down today. She'll be back tomorrow. Feels surprising that it's only one day so far. Everybody's putting in such commitment. Seems like we've been at this longer this time. And it's a trippy experience, talking to this group, a group of people that I know to be so dedicated to their practice. So I think of a talk, even if it were by a very illustrious teacher, I think of it as just these different offerings throughout a day to help with the container, give different ways of getting perspective and receiving ideas that maybe didn't come from your own mind. And I'm just on this path, like all of you, with you. So I was seeing that path analogy in my mind too, like we're just walking around and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at that bunch of flowers over there, and then somebody else can tell me, yeah, but listen to that bird, and so we'll all see a variety of things. Sometimes we'll see the same things, but all in different ways. And to me, it's critical to have those additional perspectives. I just treasure my friends and all of you to talk about our practice, what we're learning, how we're growing, how we speculate, how we feel. So that's kind of my intention here, is just as the facilitator to say, hey, guess what's been coming up for me lately? And hope that it'll, pinball off something in a useful way for you. So a few weeks ago, when a few of us were up north practicing at Daishuan, and I think we were doing sutras, and I don't remember how my mind was wandering, but I guess it started to wander because I suddenly heard my own voice say, pay attention. And then, pay attention. Somebody told me to pay attention. It was me. And then from there, this is what I have always loved about retreat, is these, subtle little flashing moments that happen to us constantly throughout our days, throughout our lives. We get some space and a different environment for some people. For some people who have very busy lives, maybe a quieter environment, a stiller environment, but a different environment nonetheless, so that we can notice things differently, notice more things maybe, notice more subtle things maybe, notice things that require some degree of trust and safety, knowing that we don't have to get up and be put together 10 minutes later. So I love that in a training period like this, or like the one I recently did, the things that come up when they feel like they have a little gift they're carrying, I have the time and the space to notice. And this pay attention, heard something or noticed something I hadn't noticed before. I think because I'm trying to learn Spanish, because it's like very embarrassing to go to a Spanish-speaking country and not speak Spanish. And I know many of you are fluent in other languages, but I'm not. And but I've been practicing, and so I heard this pay attention in my mind, and I heard this pagar, pay the bill, I'd like the bill, I'd like to pay the bill, I'd like to go to the clothing store and pay. I'd like to pay for a belt, I'd like to pay for a purse. and then thought, pay attention. What a funny way we have of saying that in English, pay attention. Why isn't it normally donate attention, focus attention, direct attention? We can say those things, but pay attention is a really normal way of saying it, right? So paying, we usually think of as money. I'm trading something, I have these dollars and I am paying for something. I think I'm going to get something, or I want something, or I've received something and I owe somebody, so I pay them. Such a funny way we have of saying what we do with attention. We pay it. What are we paying for? Then I noticed something, wondering, what am I paying for? What do I think I'm going to get? What have I gotten? It's amazing how little one can know working at something so long, so intently. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm paying for with my attention, but I know that, so if I don't know what I'm paying for, why do I do it? That's the next interesting piece to me. Then why do I do it? Why do I never doubt it? And so I use the word compelled a lot. I'm compelled to refine the way in which I'm paying attention. And there have been things that have happened. I don't know about the exchange. I don't know if like I paid for something and I got something, but the funny thing is though, now it's been 20 years since I met my first meditation teacher, one many of you know. And it wasn't any of these things. It wasn't what I thought I wanted, and I wanted to find out what I wanted. I wanted to get the things I didn't yet know that I wanted, but I figured that I would get them and then I would know that I wanted those things. And you know, it hasn't been any of those things so far. It's been a very dynamic path. So isn't it funny that there's this trust that I think I would just guess that all of you have too. That's something that I would at least feel confident about enough to pose it to you and then ask if you agree that there's some degree of trust involved in this attentiveness that we pay and we receive or not. So the things that happen along the path while we're paying and paying and paying with our attention, they can be fun and delightful things. A lot of people have transcendent states or a lot of the promises of modern mindfulness are about, fixing kind of the self-help genre of difficulties. It's a real thing that happens. And a lot of times the things that we get can be really challenging to integrate, to get used to things that change. So fascinating that we pay so dearly for something that doesn't make us any promises at all, and sometimes, really drags us. So funny that I've never doubted, at least for many years now, that that's what has to happen. Refining this attentiveness to get better at it, not so much, concentrating or focusing or these kinds of connotation words, but the kind of attention that has less overlay of my ideas. So all those things that I thought I might want or figure out that I wanted or get and then realize that I wanted, I know that this thing that we're, why we're paying attention, it's outside of reason, outside of words, but we can point. We have art, we have poems, we have music, and something that I know about all of you who've practiced a lot is you have your own experience too. You have your own experience that you know that there's more going on here than anything that we could rationally explain. And for some reason, like one little example comes to mind of, I think it was because something else cleared up at that last training. Just little decisions. I remember being at my first intensive retreat and in a formal sit, suddenly realizing like something cleared up about my schedule in my mind. I was like, I know how I'm going to do that now next Thursday. And I wasn't consciously thinking about it, it just resolved. But as mundane as it sounds, it really stayed with me because it felt so different than any of my other thinking had been before. It was that feel of leaving something alone and trusting as though I had worked out all the possibilities, as though I could know my own future and, see all the chess moves and know what I need to do. Or if anybody saw Dune 2 yet, when he drinks the poison and then he knows all the possibilities of everything that could happen, so he knows what he has to do. There's a little bit of that flavor in just knowing. That's not thinking. That's spontaneous and dynamic and unknowable, and yet we pay. And we look to pay more. After that training period, somebody I know who has considerable financial resources said to me, well, what's $500,000? I mean, of course, I would pay that, wouldn't you? And I just kind of looked blank because I don't know what it's like to think about $500,000. And so they said, wouldn't you give Ursula, my teacher, wouldn't you give Ursula $1,000 for absolute freedom, so that you know? And it was such a surprising question. It was wonderful the way it caught me off guard, and there was just of course, I would give her anything. I would give her everything. I would give her anything. And it's not creepy because she won't ask and I won't do it, so we're not doing that kind of a thing. But it was a sweet moment for me. It was like a moment where I got to recognize my own, if this were a thinking job, if this were a rational job, tell me what to do and I'll do it. Paying. I cannot believe how far some of you have come to be here, what you've, taken a week of your PTO or whatever you had to do to be here. Such dedication. And I hope that this devotional quality of this paying without knowing, that I find very beautiful. You don't need to know what you're paying for when you know what you all know. That it's not the, it's fun to realize that decisions come easily now like they didn't 15 years ago. A lot of things have changed. It's easier to navigate relationships, conversations, challenging life circumstances, which I've had more than my share of. But that's the tip of the iceberg. There's this whole other commonality, the dynamism, the spontaneity, the luminosity that we could call true nature. So why do we trust? Well, all of the masters would say, because we already know. And the abbot at that temple said, we're not trying to remember anything. There's nothing to remember when this is how things are. We're just working to forget the stuff that gets in the way of noticing what already is. So it does make sense to trust. It makes sense to trust something that is so real, so complete, so a part of everything that you are already, that it's trusting that you won't fall through the floor, maybe close to that. So I'm paying attention. I wanted to read you a poem to close with. The person who gave me this book is with us. This is why 20 people I know now have this book. From the Therigatha, the book of the early Buddhist nuns. For years I couldn't sleep. Most nights I'd throw off the covers and take long runs through the dark. Nothing helped. My sisters and brothers, when sleepless nights come to tear you into little pieces, rise to meet the day as a tree rises to meet the axe, as a scalp bows to meet the blade, as sparks from a dying fire reach out to meet the darkness, as all of our bones someday fall softly down to meet earth. When you stand, send your roots down between the stones. When you walk, walk like a skeleton walking to its grave. When you lie down like a blown-out candle being put back in a drawer. When you sit, sit very, very still. My sisters and brothers, sit like you are dead already. How could this world possibly give you what you're looking for when it's so busy falling apart, just like you? Look closely. Don't move until you see it.